one thing I want to mention is if you go to the website online, which is this sites.google.com / view and with my name, Dr. Naveen Rawat. Okay, so on this website, you can scroll down, and if you go to the Scilab page, okay, so you click on that, and inside the Scilab page you have basically an option of these codes. For example, mathematical physics 3. Okay, so here if you want to get the code of this file, you can just go on this page and you can click on this. Okay, and it will take you to the download link where you can basically download the code for this file. Okay, so all these codes I have made them available online. Okay, um, yesterday's session that we were doing, which was introductory Scilab session, there is a page which has all the codes for the introductory Scilab session, so you can find all the codes here as well. We only touched a little bit of matrix operations, but surely you can do a lot of them, generating plots and stuff. So they are also available. You can download from here. Okay. There is a separate page for numerical analysis and mathematical physics too. So some of this we'll be discussing tomorrow. Some of this we'll be discussing today as well. So we'll be discussing Euler's method and the RK4 method today. Okay. So even those codes are available. You can just download from the site. Okay. Later on, if you want to practice or something. Before we study the Euler's method and RK4 method to evaluate differential equations, basic चीज आना चाहिए कि how to define a function in Scilab. Once you define a function, you can basically call the function in the program like we are doing in the Euler's method. Okay, so we did the Fourier series. Here we never defined any functions. We just assigned values and we just entered them as formulas, and then we just plotted the formula with the varying value of time. You see, so we had a formula where x3 is a function of time, and we said let the time go from 0 to some value with some step size, and then it plotted this function. Okay, so now actually what we want to do is we want to define functions, and then if we define functions ourselves, then we can call the function and execute them in Scilab. Okay, so to define a function, the command is quite straightforward. It's just called function, and then you have to define the name of the function. Let's say the function is f of x and y. It is dependent on some x and y variables. Let's say we are trying to calculate area, and so we have to say a is equal to some value f of x of y. So you can call this area also if you want. Okay, and then inside the function you have to say what area is. So area is just x times y. What is the length times breadth? Basically that is the area of a rectangle. Okay, so and what I want to do is I want to display the result. So I'm saying display area of the rectangle is whatever it is, and then I have ended the function. So it's a very simple way to define any function that you want to calculate. Okay, so now again I'm writing in the SciNote editor. Okay, so now I'm going to compile this. Okay, and once I have compiled it, you can see it shows executed this compilation, and now I have to call this function. So I can call this function. Basically I can say f of if I want to calculate something, let's say 2,4, and then it is telling me the value. See, area of the rectangle is 8. So basically it understands that this is now a defined function. All I have to do is I have to enter the value of the length and the breadth. Okay, and if I do that, it will just do the multiplication and it will give me the answer. We could have called it anything AR, and we can define AR as x times y, right? And again, we want to, if any change you do in the code, you have to basically compile it again. Okay, and now I can call this function again. So if I have length is 4 and breadth is 4, and I want to calculate f of 4 comma 4, and then it should give me 16, right? Area of the rectangle is 16. Okay. So that's just
सर,
for,
हेलो
yeah.
सर। सर ये जो डबल स्लैश करके लिखा हुआ है वो भी लिखना ही पड़ेगा पूरा?
ये डबल स्लैश बेसिकली एक कमेंट लिखने के लिए है. So once you put a double slash, basically it tells that this is a comment. So Scilab will ignore it. Okay. Every time you use a double slash like this, it just makes anything that comes in front of the double slash as a comment. So Scilab is not compiling it. It is now ignoring it. Okay. So for example, now I have put a double slash in front of this code. Okay. So now Scilab is going to ignore this code. Okay. And now I'm going to define a function that calculates the area and volume of the sphere. Okay. So here I'm going to now uncomment this section. Okay. And again, see, I have defined a function now. Now the function is giving me not just one output, it is giving me two outputs. It is basically a function to calculate area of a sphere and volume of a sphere. Okay. So to do that, you have to define these two things that you want to calculate, area and volume, in these brackets. Okay. So I've just given the command as a comma v, and basically the function is sphere comma sphere with these brackets as r, right? So both of these quantities a and v are dependent on basically the radius of the sphere. So I have to define how to calculate the area. So area is 4 pi r square, and the volume is basically 4 pi r cube by 3. Okay. Area a and volume v of the sphere. Okay. So that is what the display should look like. Okay. So let's execute this code once. Let's see what we get. Okay. So again, it says a code is executed. So now when I want to call this function, I have to again type a comma v. This time I have to type everything that I've written, and basically I have to say sphere. And now I want to say, let's say sphere of radius 8. Okay, which is could be centimeters, could be millimeters, whatever. So if I execute this now, it is going to calculate, you see, area, and it's going to calculate the volume. You see, both of the quantities it's going to calculate at the same time. Okay. So you can define many more variables together in a function, and you can execute them at the same time. But you have to remember that you have to call the the entire function by typing the entire command here. Okay. And here our variable is r, so we are changing it to whatever value you want to get executed. Okay. So if I want to find a sphere of let's say size 3 of radius 3, then I can just change the value 3 here, and again if I execute, I'm getting the value for volume and for area. Okay. Incidentally, for 3, both of them will be the same, right? Because 4 pi r cube r by 3, this 3 cancels and formula becomes the same.